Alright. Hello, YouTube. So, I know it's been a very long time since I posted anything, and I only posted like 5 videos during the year of 2025. I would like to apologize for that. I'm going to try to do better 2026 and moving onward. So, in this video, we're going to be talking about Carl Jung and MBTI, but more importantly, cognitive functions. That's really more what Carl Jung is known for. And we're mostly going to be diving into what each placement in the overall stack really means. So yeah, hope you enjoy this video. Like, subscribe, or share with a friend, or comment down below if you have any new ideas. So, a quick disclaimer. This is going to be more based off my own interpretation, my own personal interpretation. So if it's different from what you see on the internet, just know that's why. I took not the overall kind of general idea of them, and kind of added my own kind of logic and personal ideas mixed within them. But overall, they're still kind of what you would read about. So, starting off with the first function. So your dominant function is like the main way your brain operates, and it's your biggest strength. It's the function you're the best at and you're the most natural at. I feel like that's the dominant function is pretty simple. There's not a lot to it. I mean, there is, but not as much, since it's a fairly easy. It's your biggest strength. It's your most natural function. Is it complex? Yes, but then, not really compared to the other functions, like your second function, your auxiliary function. So obviously, this function is kind of known for being like the support function, but like this function, yes, supports it, but it also helps give your dominant function a purpose. What you're doing naturally and you're the best at, what your brain is mostly doing, your brain's primary form of operation, this function is okay, that's cool, but let's give it purpose. And that's actually why if you have an introvert dominant function, you have an extrovert auxiliary function. It's like the auxiliary function of its extrovert function. For your second function, obviously you have a introvert dominant function. So the secondary extrovert function is taking what you're mostly doing inside your head. Is that what introvert is since that's your dominant function? You're always in your head. Everything, your most natural form is in your head. So then your extrovert function is like supporting it and pushing it out there by bringing it out into the real world, since that would, or out in the world in general, since that's what extrovert functions kind of are. So then the opposite is true. If you have a dominant extrovert function, you're always out in the world. And then your secondary introvert function is like, let's put it kind of back in your head though. So that's why a lot of times you see it called the parent, because it parents and guides your dominant function, which is kind of the opposite of your third function, but not really. Your third function is kind of your wild card option, in the fact that you're quite good at it. I mean, maybe not as good as your top two functions, but you're still pretty decent at it. But the problem is it's a very black and white version that lacks the nuance if, say, someone compared to someone who had in their top two functions. But what this allows, it allows you to have this form of relax and relief from your top two function, which is why it's called the child function a lot of the times. It allows your top two functions to get off of, say, work, say as an adult, and act like a child again. So that's your third function. Now onto the final function within your primary stat, your fourth function or your inferior function. So your inferior function is actually your unrecognized strength, not your weakness. A lot of people will say your inferior function is your weakness, which is kind of true, but the way I interpret it is, it's not your weakness, it's your unrecognized strength. Because you're actually quite good at your inferior function. Maybe you're not great at it per se, but you're still pretty good at it. I mean, it's still in your primary stat. But it feels so unnatural and uncomfortable to use that you end up underutilizing it. Which is why it doesn't look like a weakness, because you're like, this feels so unnatural, and I can't do it pretty well. I don't use it much. Must be a weakness, but it's not. It's actually really, you're actually kind of good at it, and you give the chance to work and feel more comfortable using this function. You'll realize that it's actually quite helpful. Alright, onto your opposing function. Sorry, I need to take a drink of water real quick. Alright, so your opposing function is the fifth function in your overall stat, but your first function in your shadow stat. What this means is it is the shadow, in air quotes, well, not really in air quotes, but like your shadow to your dominant function. So what this means is this function will kind of stops or opposes. You can kind of think of it of Newton's laws of physics. I believe it's his first law, but it's like the object will keep on moving until there's another opposing force on it that stops it from moving. So, kind of a nerdy way of looking at it, but you kind of did the idea. Or think of it like, I don't know, like you're driving a car and boom, it stops. Whatever. I don't really know how to describe it in non-nerdy ways. And so what this means is, so like, that takes my type, for example, INTP. So, like, INTP main dominant function is TI. Their opposing function is TE. The TE is obviously more focused on the real world, efficiency in the world, and less on the personal logic. So what this means is it stops the TI by being like, well, that's cool, you kind of figure this out, you have this whole internal system, but how does this actually fare in terms of a efficient plan in the world? And this manifests in two ways. All your shadow functions are kind of this way. Either within yourself, you can be opposing yourself with your opposing function, but also with others. If you have, for example, an INTP meets a dominant TE user or secondary TE user, so ENTJ, INTJ, ISTJ, ESTJ, even like the third slot and fourth slot to a certain extent, but lesser so. That can also kind of be that opposing force, either internal opposing force or external. So next we have the critical function, which is your sixth overall function and your second shadow function. So what this means is it shadows your auxiliary function. So what this means is this is your function's crit. What makes you doubt yourself, what causes doubt, which is obviously supposed to like oppose the kind of parent-like kind of role of your auxiliary function. Is obviously supposed to be very like supportive, guidance. This also kind of guides you and parents you, but it's more that critical parent kind of way. Also, one thing with the shadow functions is they're all still important to your personality and developing. So that's why I think talking about them still helps. So yeah, that's why this is called like your critical parent. And just like before with all shadow functions, this can either be more of an internal critic or an external critic. So yeah. Now on to the seventh function, or your trickster function. So this obviously opposes your tertiary function, or your child function, if you want to call it that instead. And what this means is, whereas your tertiary function, you're still quite good at it, but then it's pretty black and white. This is more the function you're completely unaware of. And it kind of makes you feel uncomfortable, might cause anxiety and being stressed out. And this sometimes, if your tertiary function or child function is more of that small child, this is more of your rebellious teenager kind of side of things. It doesn't make relief like your third function does. But then, just like all shadow functions, this either be more of a internal trickster, like internal stress by using it, or external stress by someone else who uses this function. I'm also sorry if I've been talking too fast. You may have to slow down the video, but my bad. Generally, like, my bad. I didn't mean to do that. Now onto your eighth and final function, your demon function. Now this is the shadow of your inferior function. So if your inferior function is your unrecognized strength, the one you're decent at using but feels unnatural, this is the function you hate the most within yourself, or just in general. That might mean either you hate it when other people use it, or other people that use this function. Not hate, like hate is a strong word, like you hate this function. Or you hate it when you use it in yourself, which is why I think it's called the demon function. I think of this demon as kind of like your inner demon. It's like, I don't like this part of a pretty human thing. You don't like this function. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll try to do better at uploading more at like a normal rate. That's not a good word. Whatever. Remember to like, subscribe. If you liked this video, share with a friend you think would like it. Comment down below any new ideas. Happy Halloween, happy Thanksgiving, happy Hanukkah, happy New Year's, and Merry Christmas. All the holidays. I didn't have videos for it. I just Labor Day? Yeah. And I just 9/11 and Veterans Day? Yeah, 9/11 Veterans Day. But that's more American holidays. So yeah. See ya in the next video.